Hello all, I Varsha, journalist, Indian Achievers Forum. Welcome all the dignitaries to our session on Atmanirbhar Bharat. We are joined in by Professor Ashutosh Sharma, who is the Secretary, Science and Technology, Government of India, Mr. Keval Handa, Chairman, Union Bank, Ms. Stuti Kakkar, former chairperson of NCPCR, and some more dignitaries will be joining us soon for their views on Atmanirbhar Bharat. So now I just hand over the session to Ma'am Shruti Kakkar, who will take us forward. Ma'am, please.
Thank you, Varsha. I'll request Mr. Sharma. Sir, please start the session because we are very keen to hear you.
Oh, perfect. Thank you, Varsha. Thank you, Ms. Tuti Kakkar, and everyone who has joined us. My namaskar. Good evening to everyone. So we are indeed discussing something extremely important, which we all know, the clarion call given by Honorable Prime Minister about Atmanirbhar Bharat. Now, Atmanirbhar Bharat, clearly, first of all, we should know what it means, what is the role of science and technology, and what's being done. So these are three questions in one. Now, why is science and technology important? In fact, the future is getting more and more disruptive. Every day we have seen it is happening in our lifetimes, and the future is coming at us at greater and greater speed, breakneck speed, in fact. So it is two points. It's disruptive. There are huge challenges ahead on the horizon, and the rate is of this change is getting faster. So even after COVID-19 times disappear, even after they disappear from the margins of history, these overarching challenges would be there for us for the entire future of humanity. What are these challenges? And these challenges, like I said, are disruptive and they happen at ever faster rate. So these challenges are related to sustainable development. These are related to constraints on resources. These are related to, for example, rise of microbial resistance. If you just think about it, if there were no antibiotics that were working, there is nothing in the modern medicine that would work. You could not have a surgery, for example. So the entire edifice of health sciences that we have built so painstakingly over last 100 years would simply collapse like so many pack of cards. There are challenges which are related to our learning, our skills, our jobs, and these come from the rise of intelligent machines. So we all heard about artificial intelligence, machine learning, robotics, Industry 4.0, data, Internet of Things, whatever you call them. The fact is that we are more tightly integrated and interconnected than ever before. It's not just people, but things. Everything that we have is basically getting seamlessly connected. So, therefore, also communication, cyber physical systems. And what that means is there are a whole lot of things that we used to do as humans, any of these repetitive jobs, even what is called creative jobs, even what is called cognitive jobs, all of them are increasingly being done by machines. And so going forward in the future, it has huge implications and impacts for the way we train, the way we operate, the way we skill, and the way we change and learn. So these are some of the very big issues, and starting from sustainable development. Now, if any of you have thought a little bit about sustainable development, we know that sustainable development is an oxymoron. It's an oxymoron if you look at development in the sense of growth economics. What that means is, well, the only way that you say development and growth, one definition of it by Chicago School of Economics at the turn of the last century is basically how you consume. And so clearly there is a great conflict between development and sustainability. And we are seeing it. I mean, this whole fragile Himalayan ecosystem, it is collapsing at a fast rate. Glaciers disappearing, springs disappearing, people migrating, degradation of habitat, woods disappearing, animals disappearing. Look, it's very simple. So all I'm saying is that there are huge challenges, which are unprecedented, which means that we have not had tools or time to think about how we are going to actually be addressing it. So this is as much as I'm going to say about background, if you would. And so therefore, science and technology is a very strong pillar to deal, to address effectively many of these changes, challenges, and turn them into opportunity. Hello, Mr. Amit Goenka. I can see you now. So hope you're doing well and your conference is going very well. Okay. So right. So I was saying, okay, let's talk about what's Atmanirbhar. So Atmanirbhar Bharat. So Atmanirbharta, some people think it's about manufacturing. Some people think it's about something or other, right? Atmanirbharta actually as an interconnected chain is about everything. So it's from education to, let us say, if I look in science and technology, in particular in R&D and innovation, it means it's not a single thing. Look, if we don't prepare our people through education, and that starts from primary school, and I would not have time to talk about it, but you all recognize the fact that what happens to us later, actually, that template is pretty much set by the time we have done high school. Very little change is going to happen afterwards. Second thing, so higher education, and then going into research and development. And research and development basically means producing new knowledge, but that's not sufficient. So we need to be self sufficient in producing, creating new and relevant knowledge. But at the same time, this new and relevant knowledge also has to find an outlet. And to find an outlet, it means that there must be Atmanirbharta in knowledge consuming systems. So this is a very simple point, but most people just miss it totally. I mean, simple points is what we miss. We all know complex things very well. So the point is, you can produce relevant quality knowledge through R&D, but if you do not have any muscle to consume it, in other words, to take it to the society, to take it to the industry, then that knowledge will have very little meaning. In fact, India is very Atmanirbhar in creation of knowledge. How do we know that? We know that because, for example, India is number three in the world in terms of number of scientific publications. We are also producing, we are also third largest number of PhD producers in science and engineering, about 25,000 per year. We are also number three now in number of startups which are based on science and technology. This is not a small thing, because if you look at most of the socio-economic indicators for the country, we would be very happy if we are in the top 30, not in top 3. So this is the strength that we need to build on for an Atmanirbhar Bharat. This is a huge strength. There is a deep strength in R&D, in human resources which are fully trained, in demographic dividend, which means that the people, vast majority, more than 65% are below 35. We are a young nation, and what that means is there is a whole lot of energy flowing out there, which is waiting to convert knowledge into opportunities. So demographic dividend. But since I talked about the strength, which is demographic dividend, we must not forget that this is a window of opportunity which is not there forever. You fast forward yourself 30 years in the future, this demographic dividend will become a demographic liability. We have a window of opportunity which stretches to about 40 years now, give or take 5 years. So there is no time to lose. Our challenge is clear and present. I mean, we just can't wake up one day and say, like, oh, sorry, I missed it again, right? It cannot happen. So this is clear and present challenge. And no matter if it's the government, no matter if it is who I am or you are, each one of us, it's a shared responsibility for taking forward things with the speed and with the scale. So, okay, so I come to the point very quickly now, which is Atmanirbharta basically is not Atmanirbharta in a single dimension, because all these dimensions, from R&D, education, to prototyping, to design, to innovation, to marketplace, to industry, to startups, all of them is a seamless chain. So even though we are fragmented in so many different compartments, so point is to have true Atmanirbharta. Basically, it's not the weakness in each silo, but the connect between the silos, which is of overarching importance. So what do we mean by that? Now you say that, okay, I will only produce knowledge and I will try to push it, but I have no direction for that knowledge. The other person, industry guy, he's only thinking, I can't now wake up, it's too late, I'm going to import it. And then whoever is buying it is say, I am risk averse, I can't put my stuff in R&D, right? Whether it would come through, it would not come through, who knows, right? Anyway, the rate of interest is high. I might as well be in money lending business than in R&D, and all these problems are there, totally understand, right? So this chain, basically forging this chain, and in fact the weakest links of this chain, that we call invention to innovation, that is what has to be done, and historically it has not been done, because we work in silos, we don't recognize what is the interdependence between different domains of give and take, so to say. So um, okay, so this to impress upon the fact that Atmanirbharta and knowledge, in fact, is a seamless chain. And what works in this chain, actually, oftentimes, see, Atmanirbharta greatly depends on both creating appropriate knowledge and consuming that knowledge. Now, another way to put it is the balance between invention and innovation. And most people I talk to have no clear idea about what innovation means. But innovation is that missing link in the chain, or weak link in the chain. So the easiest way I can explain this in two sentences is, you think invention is creation of knowledge, which means you convert resource into knowledge. This is what universities do. This is what R&D labs do. This is what whole lot of what we call education, training, blah blah. All of that does invention. Now, innovation is opposite of that, total 180-degree opposite of it, orthogonal in mathematical language. What that means? It means in innovation, you take the knowledge and convert it into money, whereas in invention, you take money and convert into knowledge. Now, sustainability of knowledge requires that we have invention and innovation working together, right? So it's a circle. So you convert some money into knowledge, you back convert knowledge into money or socio-economic opportunities, and no society can be sustainable unless you have sustainability of knowledge. And this is the key to sustainability of knowledge, invention and innovation working together. I will now come to, okay, people want to hear, so what is DST doing about it? Right, this is a small matter, and I can tell you thousands of things that DST is doing about it, and I'll come to that in a second. Now, before I come to that, I want people to clearly understand that there is a huge, there are, what are the dimensions of Atmanirbharta? So we already talked about one dimension, which is the knowledge, chain, and circle. Another dimension clearly is related to policy and regulations. But even more deeper, even more fundamental thing about Atmanirbharta is the cultural dimension of Atmanirbharta. Now, this is again so simple to understand, and the more you travel around the world, more you live somewhere else, you recognize this as the fundamental factor which is needed in the society, not only in scientists. Okay, is what is required is a cultural dimension. And so what is that cultural dimension? Atmanirbharta, when I think about it, there are three words that come to my mind immediately. The first one is Atma Vishwas, which means self confidence in who we are and what we are capable of doing. The whole society and various sections of it variously fail on this measure miserably. Whether it is the student, whether it is the teacher, whether it is the principal, whether it is me, whether it is you, we just have no trust in our abilities and the abilities of people around us. If you program yourself to fail, then the outcome cannot be anything else. Okay, and you see, I've seen so many cultures, so many people. This person from this country XYZ, He may be stupid, but he is confident. We are other way around. Okay, so the best of our people who are getting 99 percentile, 99%, 100%, even they and their boss is not sure that they can crack this problem, right? So how do you, I mean, it's just totally amazing. It blows my mind totally. Second thing, when you think about Atma Nirbharta, the word that comes to your mind is Atma Samman. Now, often this is a very deep cultural issue. This is very easy to become negative. It's very easy to say, hey, this guy not doing anything. What's happening here? What? No, nothing. This guy not solving my problem. If I don't have Atma Samman, I cannot give it to anybody else. This is the first fundamental principle, call it scientific or otherwise. Okay. I've never seen a person who has no, doesn't have self-respect can actually respect anything and therefore inspire people and bring confidence in them, right? The third aspect related to Atma Nirbharta is Atma Chintan, not Atma Chinta. Huge difference between looking properly into what is it that I lack and what needs to be done and be fully prepared for it, no matter what sacrifice or out of comfort zone feeling is required for it. So we said, look, in our knowledge, we need to be profound, disruptive. There are three different ways of solving a problem that I call Jugaad, Dhanda, and Panga. Now, Panga is the disruptive way of solving problems, and we are a little bit risk averse. So our scientists don't want to take risk and fail like the rest of the society. So we created a special scheme for them, which is called Supra, and said, look, please work on problems which are profound. It doesn't matter if you fail. Okay, but at least if you succeed, and if 100 people try, 10 of them would succeed. I have no doubt about it. So therefore, this particular scheme, it allows people to work on problems which are high risk but profound, right? And this is how actually science progresses by leap and bounds. By you have heard of leapfrogging, but leapfrogging is no longer an option. We should go for pole vaulting, and pole vaulting being disruptive and so on. This is the way to do it. So we need to have a sense and purpose and ownership in solving our problems. And like I said, innovation is a big part of it. So innovation, look, in last 5 years, Department of Science and Technology have done quantitatively and qualitatively more for innovation in the next than in the last 50 years. These are numbers. So, for example, in last 5 years, we made 75 new technology business incubators. The existing number when I came to this office about 6 years ago was about the same, which means we have doubled the ecosystem for innovation. And they incubate about 4,000 technology startups. Now, that's not the point. The point is that, you, like I said, innovation is also a chain. So you need scouting, you need mentoring, you need training, you need prototyping support, you need fellowships, you need seed funding, you need business plans, you need exit plans, you need all of that. So all of these things are being addressed because you cannot be successful in startups and innovation unless you take care of each of these things. Basically, make sure that the strength of the chain is not determined by its weakest link. Another thing about innovation, there's also a cultural aspect. Unless you take the power of innovation to schools, you would not create entrepreneurs of the future in very large numbers. So basically, a new program called Manak, which reaches 5 lakh schools, and we want a competition in each school for innovative, creative ideas. And the top two ideas in any of the languages of the country can be uploaded. So basically, they aggregate to 1 million or 10 lakh ideas every year. Out of these, we select top 100,000 ideas, and each of this student, a kid from class 6 to class 12, gets 10,000 rupees each. So we are spending 100 crore rupees per year just on seeding the power of ideas in schools. So with this 10,000 rupees, this kid actually converts idea into a prototype. Then they start competing, they receive mentorship, they receive more and more recognition. Then they start competing on district level, state level, national level, go to Festival of Innovation where they get to meet no less a person than the Honorable President of India. Imagine the big push that this kid actually receives, right? And so now, last point that I want to impress upon. Look, about DST, I can talk for what we have been doing. I can talk for about 30 hours non-stop. So now I realize that we have a minute. Okay, and so we have to be future ready for our Atmanirbharta. COVID-19 time has shown us very clearly that you cannot wake up at the last moment unless you have the capacity, you have the capability, you have the right human resources, you have the right infrastructure, and that you are fully working with industry and with the startups and all of that. It's not going to happen. Of course, it happened in COVID-19 times, which is another story which would take very long to tell. So, what I would say is to be future ready. Now, about this future ready, I would talk about only three big programs that DST has seeded. Rajan, I'm so happy to see you.
Thank
And
you.
I'm so happy that you are not getting jittery because of waiting. If you are the next person in line, I can take some liberty and go for another 30 seconds.
Please.
Right? Okay, so if I have your approval.
Even
Okay.
100
One?
waiting for a long
Yeah,
time.
no, see.
And since
Stuti
the
ji, Stuti
banker,
ji,
we
it's
should
very hard to take away mic from two kind of people, poets and professors. Okay, so I would now that I'm here, I would make use of my 30 seconds. So look, we started this program. I'm appealing everybody here who is hearing, who has interest in artificial intelligence, machine learning, and so on. We started this program last year at a investment of 3,600 crores across the nation, which would set up all these foundational strengths from invention to innovation to market in the areas of artificial intelligence, machine learning, robotics, Industry 4.0, IoT, data, ethics of AI, and so on. Second very big mission, which is futuristic in the offing, is 8,000 crores mission on quantum technologies, which was announced in the last budget. This is going to be transformative. The third mission is about electric mobility, because we know that this is what the future is. So now I see there are a lot of crosstalk. So thank you very much. I truly appreciate the opportunity you gave me to go beyond the time allotted to me. Um, Live long and
thank,
prosper. Thank you very much.
thank you. It's been wonderful listening to you, and I wish we could have devoted the entire time to DSP. Yeah, because he was the first coming from Union Bank. So
Yeah, hi. Very good evening to all of you. The pandemic has thrown how many countries have become vulnerable to logistics, to the supplies of goods, and also in terms of meeting the requirements of their communities. We at India also have recognized how vulnerable we were during the COVID time, and therefore our Prime Minister and the government talked about Atmanirbhar. Now, I think this concept is not the same as we talked about import substitution. Import substitution was, to my mind, very narrow to just substitute products that we don't manufacture. But when we talked about Atmanirbharta, we are talking about going beyond our requirements and meeting the global requirements. Now, to be very successful in this, there are very two basic things required. A is that our manufacturing base is very poor. We're just about 16% of our GDP is manufacturing. We need to take our manufacturing base to 25%. That is the minimum that you're required to have a broad base for catering to various industries. The second is the infrastructure is not that good. Unless you have that strong infrastructure, which is logistics, which is cold chain, which is quick and fast, airports, ports, availability, supplies, all that happens very quickly, we will not be able to reach there. Two things which are right now in favorable for us is A, the new education policy is fantastic. That is going to make a lot of change in setting up the mindset, setting the culture of this country, and making people more innovative, as the secretary was talking about. But let me talk about the sectors which really will take us as a global player. The one sector that comes to my mind is artificial intelligence and machine learning. This is where we think we can be the global player. not only meet the requirements of our industry, but also become the global supplier. Now, what we need to do it. I am not here for talking about giving rewards to students and so on. So we are talking about government. We are talking about corporates. We are talking about global. We are want to talking about global players. And when you want to be a global player, you need to have a global mindset. And for a global mindset, we are very poor in R&D. What we need to do is let's have 10,000 crores put behind all our artificial intelligence and machine learning to be a global player. Can we do that continuously for 5 years? Not 1 year, for 5 years. And then you will see where we are after 5 years. We'll become the global player. Whether it is in aeroplanes, whether it is in NASA rockets, whether it is on food, everywhere the artificial intelligence and the machine learning is of India. That I will call it is the playing a game. The second playing a game is the R&D game. Where are we on R&D? We have hardly any investment done in the R&D. Can't we have a budget of 5,000 crore rupees? To all those who want to do R&D, want to spend on R&D, the government will make it available. That again will foster the culture of innovation. And the third important thing that I'm going to talk about is MSMEs. We all talk about MSMEs. When the banks talk about giving loans to MSME, the moratorium period to MSME and so forth. But are we making them capable person? Are we making them more competitive globally? I don't think so. How do we make them more competitive globally? How we make them more global? I think we should learn from Germany. What Germany did when they wanted their analog MSME sector to be digital, what they did, they created a fund of 100, $250 million fund. Can we create a 10,000 crore fund for MSME? All and create a team which will help MSME to upgrade their facilities and be digital. By doing that, what we are going to do is make the SME global players, improve the quality of the SMEs, and our MSME will cater to globally. Now, this is something that we need to be doing. So I personally feel we need to do a whole lot of things in terms of policies, intention, and actually putting the money on the table. If we don't do that, and we talk about culture, we talk about we need to be Atmanirbhar, we talk about small things to happen, it will never happen. Let me tell you, that will never happen. If you want to be a global player, think globally, have a global mindset, and go for it.
Say trying our best to so that brought in a lot of changes when I was
Yeah, madam, I'll just give you an example on that. There is a middle side, the Germans MSMEs. All they did was they created a capable team that will tell the MSMEs how do you want to upgrade, how do you want to sell your product globally. And if you want money, you take it from the government. The government spent the money, the government capability was there, and today they are giants globally.
yes, they are, and it's a brilliant suggestion. Sometime during, I will suggest it to SIC because that's the organization which is very. Now I'll request Dr. Matthews, please. We would like to hear you.
To talk about the telecom sector, where I've been involved for the last 10 years or so in India. So I think I endorse what the other speakers have been talking about in terms of where we need to be. So I think global perspective is absolutely essential. Why? Because unless we have global demand for telecom equipment, we will not get scope and scale in order to get to the price points that are appropriate. So I think looking at the global market for telecom in terms of encouraging manufacturing in India is absolutely essential. The second point I would like to highlight is that we have to enter into partnerships. And the reason I say we need to enter into partnerships, at least in the near term, is because the lead times in telecom, in terms of standards integration, in terms of IPR, take several years ahead of when the technology is actually introduced commercially. So, for example, we should not hesitate to begin to say, go to Huawei or Nokia or Ericsson and say, please uh, give us, if you will, under the appropriate royalty arrangements, which we should be able to negotiate, allow our domestic manufacturers to be able to license those IPR in the time period that we are developing our own IPR. So, in a sense, developing what we call white labeled equipment, especially as we enter into the 5G era, is in my mind critical. So the partnerships in terms of licensing and in terms of using IPR that is already there is absolutely critical to begin to initiate it. The third area that we must look in, much as we did in the area of automobiles, is first look at components technology. Let's not shoot for the stars. Let's take those steps like every other country did in terms of highlighting priority areas where there's a high degree of success. And one of the areas where I believe there's a high degree of success in the telecom manufacturing space is in the area of components. Today, when you look at the handset manufacturing arena, we, in terms of demand, demand about 35 million units a year. That is not a trivial amount. However, because we do not manufacture the components except for a very few things, we are basically assembling, white labeling, and marketing. And so, therefore, the margins are very thin. And then we have to look at things like, protection at the border through all kinds of duties, and it gets into that. So I think the components area in areas like handset manufacturing in terms of equipment for 5G is an area we need to look at. So that's the third area. The fourth area that we must begin to start looking at is our involvement from India in the international standards body. We have started up the standards body in India. It's growing, it's robust. We involve our academia, we involve the manufacturers, we involve the operators. That ecosystem has to flourish because in the telecom space, we must continue to focus on standards. Standards are the absolute name of the game if you're going to monetize the IPR that you are going to develop, hopefully, in India. So that is going to be critical. Playing in the international standards game, it's not a trivial set of competencies. We must develop that. We must develop the people skill sets, the commitment to IPR development, and monetizing those in the international standards. The next area that we must look at in the telecom space, especially in the 5G, is, as has been highlighted, R&D. Please look at what Huawei, who is now one of the leading players in 5G, has done. They annually generate $166 billion of turnover revenue, of which 20% of $166 billion is reinvested in R&D. And I think some of the previous speakers have talked about the scope and scale. We cannot play in the small arena. We have to get into the critical mass where the R&D, which in telecom is absolutely an indicator of success. So investments in R&D. And I think, for example, here in the US, there are significant tax savings. I'm surprised at, for example, where our tax structure does not incentivize investments in R&D. Here in the US, in the tax code, if you invest in R&D, you can pretty much write off the whole amount. The protections on IPR are fairly significant. So I think we need to look at the tax structures that incentivize investments in R&D for corporations and companies. I think this is another area that we need to look at. I think the speakers have also highlighted artificial intelligence, quantum computing as areas that we need to look at. And these are, in my mind, absolutely the areas we need to develop because we have the IT skill sets in our skill base. And one of the things that is happening in telecom is what we call open source protocols. Now, why is this important? This is important because it harnesses the capability in India of our IT folks and breaks the monopoly of folks who have IPR. So once we go to an open source type of an environment, it allows our country and India and elsewhere to enter into the domain that was previously ring fenced because of IPR and royalties and all of these types of things. So those are the areas in my mind that we will need to look at if we are to be successful in terms of not only being self-reliant but being globally leaders in terms of providing leadership in the telecom space. We are the second largest telecom company in the world, of a market in the world. We are the largest consumer of data, and it's a shame if we can't leverage these to the advantage of the country. Thank you very much.
So thank you so much. I mean, communication is the main way in which we all can develop. If we can communicate with each other our ideas, what we want to do, the country progresses. Dr. Omkar Rai ji, can we have your views on this topic, please?
Thank you very much, madam, for this opportunity. In fact, this is a very important topic, and I must congratulate uh, you all for organizing this forum, this interaction. I would say that Atmanirbharta or self-reliance is a call given by Honorable Prime Minister, and all of us have understood the importance of this very aspect. Obviously, for the fact that no nation in the world would like to depend on others to meet our requirement, and would not like to lose the opportunity, the wealth that we have to lose in case we are not self-reliant. And therefore, I have heard learned speakers. They have shared their views on variety of domains, sectors. I would say that Atmanirbharta is a concept where we have to be totally self-reliant in most of the things, wherever we could be, and we should be so for all our times. So it has to be a continuous process. Uh, we have talked about that we have missed the bus in manufacturing, particularly in electronics manufacturing. We have done very well in terms of IT services that we have done. And I would say that during recent times, so many things have come on fore, has drawn our attention. All of us have noted that this is also a very strategic thing to be self-reliant in all aspects. And therefore, I would say that the self-reliance is not only in terms of manufacturing or electronic manufacturing or telecom gears we talk about. We have to be self-reliant in software product also. Uh, I have just referred that we have done good in IT services. Our export has grown to $147 billion in 2019-20, with $191 billion strong IT industry in India. But at the same time, we have not been too successful in terms of creating software products. We have referred about Chinese apps that have been banned, and we have seen that they have consumed a lot of market from India and grown on our own demography and demand that we had. And that is how I would say that the time has come when our people, our young boys and girls are now ideating, thinking about creating products, technology products, based on new ideas. And therefore, in times to come, whereas last year we had a data that the technology software product market in India has been very close to $9 billion only, whereas the world had this market, overall global market, has been in the tune of 512 or more than $500 billion. In this regard, we had already come up with National Policy on Software Product 2019, which aimed at taking Indian software product industry to 70 to 80 billion by 2025. And therefore, this was the dream that we had last year. But owing to the fact that we have seen certain issues and challenges in front of us, we have to achieve this very soon, sooner than that date that we had envisaged. I would say that in the change scenario, when all the stakeholders are so sensitized, so aware, and working in tandem together, I'm very sure that in times to come, we will be able to meet this challenge. Recently, the government of India, various ministries, departments, and organizations have been doing a lot in this regard. We have been coming up with challenge grant program. We have been throwing the problems in front of young boys and girls to solve the problem. Of late, we have seen several indigenous product coming in this area, and we have also seen that Indians have now broken that shield, that barrier that was once in their mindset, and they are now becoming a nation where we are conceiving a new product. If we just refer to the success that technology service or technology product industry that US has is having even as yet. We talk about Facebook, Twitter, we talk about Google. These are the services and product both at the same time based on new idea, and that is how on one hand we are required to develop products which are needed today. We are required to develop technology platform which are needed today, and we are also required to develop similar products which are leading in the entire world. But at the same time, to be a self-reliant Atmanirbhar for long time, over a period of time and continuously, we have to think out of box. We have to ideate. We have to have a culture of innovation, so that we can create, conceive, ideate new product, so that tomorrow we could develop new ideas and new product and new product which services which should be so great that world is compelled to consume that. And that is the way forward. Not only that we think today and become self-reliant, create a strategy and start manufacturing, start doing those kind of product which are having market share. It's not, it's necessary, but the sufficient condition is that our young boys and girls, our people at large, have to resort to the culture of ideation, culture of innovation, and think out of box and create those ideas which become the demand, which become a necessity for the rest of the world. And that is the kind of thing we are needed if we want to make this India self-reliant or Atmanirbhar for real, in real terms, for long time. Lot of wealth, lot of opportunity, lot of job comes if you think in this direction, create your own products. You start exporting, you create job within country, bring wealth back to India, which helps Indian grow in terms of per capita GDP, which helps in turn market capitation, and therefore the whole virtuous cycle comes into the picture. And therefore, I would say that the software technology parks of India, which I represent, is doing these things. One of the speakers were referring about AI. He was talking about emerging technology. I would say that software technology parks of India is creating more than 21 centers of excellence in collaborative manner, in collaboration with the government, academia, industry leaders all across the country. We have already launched 12 such center of excellence. We are launching 6 more in times to come, with another few months. And in all, we will be having more than 21 centers of excellence in the areas of AI, IoT, FinTech, Meditech, autonomous, connected, electric and shared vehicle, machine learning, animation, gaming, blockchain, and all sorts of cutting edge emerging technologies. And we are affording young boys and girls and those people who are having ideas and dreams to work with us, to join our centers of excellence, which are offering them hand holding, mentor support, access to world class mentors, access to capital, access to lab, and all sorts of ecosystem in place. Most importantly, all these centers of excellence are being administered and managed in very professional manner, utmost professional manner, primarily by the industry leaders. And therefore, we have roped in for the reason that we have a great goodwill with the IT services industry and its leaders, and they are coming forward to act as chief mentor of the Center of Excellence, and the entire administration and management of the entire program, project, and Center of Excellence is being handled by those industry leaders themselves. And they are very, the entire decision-making process, facilitation process is being handled by the private hands. And therefore, it's a kind of effort where we can call it so-called PPP model, where the stakeholders are working together, whereas the leadership is being given in the hands of India. And that is why we are offering a very world-class ecosystem to our younger boys and girls. Apart from that, we are also implementing a next generation incubation program, which is all about services, and we are trying to focus and promote the tier 2 and tier 3 cities of this country, the smaller cities and locations of this country, and we are trying to bring all those services which are available in tier 1 cities to their doorsteps. In all, I would say that the time is very ripe. All the stakeholders are so aligned. The mindset of people had changed a lot. The India is embracing a kind of culture. It's already doing that, and in times to come, with us all stakeholders together, with the initiatives together, and the most importantly, the need of the nation, which is a more driving force for us. I'm very sure that this call, which is given by our Honorable Prime Minister of India, would not only lead us, show us the way, but it would also be met by effort that we will put together. With this, I must thank the organizer for this opportunity. Thank you very much.
Okay, I must thank Dr. Rai for his wonderful lecture. Actually, we need to have a very enabling environment to unleash the creativity of the Indian mind and, of course, equal opportunities. Doctor, now I'll request Mr. Bimlendu Kumar. Sir, I heard you the first time when you were talking about your coalfields effort, and you are in a place where you find cave paintings. The first time human beings settled in the Ganga plain, that was in Singrauli, and that area, Sonbhadra, Singrauli, that area, it's a very historical place. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So I don't know if you've come across those cave paintings, but if you do look around, apart from fossils, you'll find even remnants of human civilization. So it's a very interesting area you're looking in. Very backward, but then most of these places are like that. And coal is our basic energy. So please, can we have a few words from you, please?
Namaskar. I am Director Personnel, Northern Coalfield Limited, a subsidiary of Coal India Limited. Our holding company is Coal India Limited, headquartered at Calcutta. Our Honorable Prime Minister slogan, Atmanirbhar Bharat, self-reliant Bharat, the call by our Prime Minister is we are already following in Coal India Limited. Nearly 52% of coal, which is a prime source of energy, 86% of coal and 52% of energy of India we provide. Coal India is providing 52% of energy. As CIL as a whole, you must be aware all the maximum thermal power plant is based on coal, and we are the major source of providing coal in India, the prime source of energy. We are feeding nearly more than 5 million persons. 3.5 lakhs family, direct family, employee and contract level. Then many stakeholders, nearby area persons, supplier, more than 5 million, up to 6 million, we should say, we are feeding from our side. But we have to go far ahead. Now, nearly 250 million tons of coal is being imported. Out of that, nearly 50-55 million ton coking coal is not available in India. So 200 million ton approximately non-coking coal we have. That we have to produce. We have been given target by 2023-24, 1 billion ton, and we are confident that we will achieve that. By that time, imported coal, non-coking coal will be zero. That will be the biggest step in Atmanirbhar Bharat. The 200 million ton coal will provide to our thermal power plant and other persons. So we are on that path already. Biggest hurdle with us is land or that land. So we will be happy to know, apart from RFCA TLR land, we are giving job for every 2 acres of land. So generally what they come, normally they are very poor persons and land out here are illiterate, 8th pass, 10th pass, few are well educated also. And we are step, and the second step for skilling India, they are illiterate. We have to make them literate, we make them skilled, then give employment. We are inducting them as a category 1 worker, category 1 Mazdoor. We are giving them training at our training institute. We have got, like CCL, NCL, we have got one Central Excursion Training Institute at 10 BTC. We appoint them, train them, skill them, and then deploy them on the machines, working them. So it is also a part of our work in Atmanirbhar Bharat and Self-Reliant India. You will be also happy to note that this is, I think, only company where any employee died anywhere in India, on leave, maybe due to a snake bite. We give one person that kind of job. Few of them, not most of them, are unskilled. We give them appropriate training and deploy them. Apart from that, we give training to the persons who are not connected to us. Any apprentice, any person who comes to us for apprentice training, we give. This year itself, we have advertised 1,500 posts for apprentices in NCL, Northern Coastal Limited. And there are so many technical institutions, diploma institutions, engineering colleges. We give them vocational training in our 10 BTC. Also, under CSR, we are contemplating to start a skill development training institute with collaboration with SCMS in Singrauli itself. Within few months, I think after 2-3 months, we will like to start. And our target is 400 persons every year to start with, which will go up to 1,000. Not only that, we provide training to even females to nearby area in stitching, beauty parlor, computer training, poultry farming, like that, so that they are self-reliant. This is also a part of making our country Atmanirbhar. This is in short what we are doing. We have to go far ahead, and we are contemplating that in nearby area or no person in nearby area कोई भूखा नहीं मरे, आसपास के कोई भी लोग भूखे नहीं मरे. Either we provide a job if we take land, or we give them training so that they become self-reliant, maybe a welder, maybe a electrician, maybe a fitter. Also, we are giving a scholarship to them. Nearby area, engineering college, medical college, and ITI diploma, we give them a scholarship for make them educated. These are very short what we are doing, and we are doing. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, me also. Well, government did all PSUs, in the country, they sort of catalyze development of that area, and you are living up to your promise, because being from UP, I know it is one of the most backward areas of
Yeah.
the state, where your being there must be the highlight of that area, because it is very rich, but unfortunately it has a lot of problems, and you're doing a great job. Thank you so much, contributing wealth to my state and also to Madhya Pradesh.
Thank you. Thank you.
Lot of new ideas, and I really wish I had met Mr. Kamal Handa when he joined the MSME, because we were always looking to solutions on how to modernize our MSMEs. And because they are the largest employers, and if they grow, then the country grows. There were 2 crores MSMEs that time. That was 2000 ke kareeb 2002 mein. Now I think there must be many more. And the other sector, telecom, is of course very important. IT sector is very important. Every sector is in fact important, magar I'm especially fond of the MSMEs. And I think we can now thank all our speakers, and we wish them a very good evening and close this webinar.
Anyway, it was a very enriching session, and thank you very much, ma'am, for hosting this session. And thanks to all our guests and speakers. And my special thanks to NCL for supporting us for this event. So thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Thank you.
So
Thank you
ma'am,
so
I think we can conclude with this, and
Yes, thank
we
you
can
so
log out.
much. Very pleasant evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Okay, bye.
Bye.